Eric Ten Hag's favourite fixture is against Manchester City. It's how he saved his job. It's how he's made sure that he's still Manchester United manager. And he comes into probably the weirdest game going. Like, I'm looking at the potential starting 11s in front of me and I'm going, what is going on? Community Shield final also being on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. Everything's just a bit off with this game. But United will be licking their lips because another chance at a trophy, and Ten Hag in particular will be going, it's City again.
It's one of those trophies that if you win it, it means a lot. If you don't, it's a pointless friendly, isn't it? We've seen that down the years. It's just such an odd game. And I've always found that the Community Shield is a strange game. I think this one more so than the rest, particularly maybe because of the Euros and so many players coming back late. You have no idea who's going to be in the starting 11 really for either team. I think, as you mentioned, I think Manchester United will have that bit between their teeth because it's a chance to beat City and it's a chance to get the season off to a really, really good start. I think City's motivation will come from that FA Cup game. They don't want to be beaten by United twice at Wembley. Nobody wants that. And I think there are a few players at City who we know will most likely be playing, which will be Erling Haaland, who loves playing Man United. He really does hate them. And you don't get that a lot with modern players actually really despising the team that they play against. He really does. And Jack Grealish as well. I expect Grealish to put in a really good performance. We know how upset he was not being included in the Euros squad. He's had a whole season, he's had a whole summer to work on himself, and I've been keeping up to date with him. Hold my hands up, he's probably my favourite player. I don't know what it is about him. I love the guy. I've been keeping tabs on him on Instagram, and even from like 1 week into his holiday, he's there, he's sprinting in the sun. You know, he seems to be doing a lot of good work, and in pre-season you could see he was quicker, he was more agile, he was a bit more alert. So I expect big things from him tomorrow, expect big things from Haaland. And then the kind of other few people that you don't know that well, James McAtee, Pep seems to be quite happy to have him back in. He did quite well at Sheffield United, and he's had a few other successful loan spells. And then Oscar Bob, who we mentioned on the other video as well, I expect him to shine. That's from a City perspective. From a Man United perspective, I just have no idea who's going to be playing.
The starting
or what
lineup
form
here,
they're going to be in.
It has Johnny Evans at left back, Harry Amas potentially at centre back, and then Ahmad and Rashford and Mount and Sancho. I hate to say this about United, but that starting 11 doesn't move me. And even with a couple of additions, I'm still going, it still doesn't move me. They still have just a similar problem to where they were at last season, but they pulled it out the bag last time.
They did in a one-off game, and there's no reason why they can't do that again. The problem is with the Community Shield is that it feels to me like more and more as the years have gone by, it becomes an extension of pre-season rather than you know, a trophy. And I think when you look at the situation, as Kim mentioned, you've had the Euros, you've had the Copa America, there are players out injured. Managers are really focused right now on trying to get their squads ready for the start of the Premier League. I think you're going to see loads of changes. I think you're going to see loads of players playing out of position, people that would never get a game in the Premier League getting an opportunity. And so to predict how this one's going to go, I think is almost impossible. The fact that it is the two Manchester clubs and there is a rivalry there adds a little something to it, I guess. And there'll be probably more want to win it than maybe you'd get if it was, I don't know, Manchester City against Chelsea, for example. But I just find it really, really difficult to put my finger on, how this one is going to go. I mean, Man United, I know you've spoken quite a bit about City. From Man United's perspective, Jadon Sancho, like, he was not going to play for Manchester United again, and he could be starting at Wembley at the weekend for them. People like Mount, Rashford obviously didn't go to the Euros, so they should in theory be fresher than others, and I think they're going to need to have good seasons. But you know, there's still so many areas in that United team that don't look right to me. Onana in goal as well. I've never been totally convinced by him, and him coming out the other day and saying that he's going to take more risks than ever, or whatever it was that he said. That's a bit
strange. The one thing he didn't need, he doesn't need, is to take more risks, isn't it? I think from a Manchester United perspective, that predicted front four in Rashford, Sancho, Mount, and Ahmad, they're all angry, or they should at least be angry for their own different reasons. Mount should be angry about the fact that he was injured, about what Chelsea fans and United fans are saying about him. Rashford as well, Sancho, like, those four should have the fire in their belly. I know Ahmad feels like he should have played many, many more games for Manchester United. So I think that's one good thing about the Community Shield, and particularly when it's a derby, is that it's a game, you know, if you win it 6-0, for example, it's a game that's going to stick in the fans' head forever, even though, if we're being completely honest, it's completely meaningless. So I think a lot of these players, particularly that front four for Manchester United, who will have quite a lot of fire in their belly, the fact that Rashford's born and bred red, the fact that Sancho played for City and Guardiola didn't really get on with him, and that's why he left. I think it's not going to be a boring game. I think a lot of players have these individual battles against themselves or against the team that they're playing, like Haaland, like I mentioned before. So I don't think it'll be a boring game, but it is completely impossible to predict.
I almost think if you're Erik ten Hag, you don't really want this game. Because he won the FA Cup and the tide turned in terms of public opinion around him, right? And he got the contract extension and he's about to start a new season where in a lot of people's eyes, it's new ownership, new slate, go again. But if he goes and gets battered by Manchester City, which could happen because of the golfing class between the two sides, then all of a sudden he starts the new campaign on the back foot again.
Yeah.
And I know that it is a meaningless game at the end of the day, and it is it's a trophy, but how much weight does it carry? Not a great deal. But I just think for Erik ten Hag, you'd have preferred to have a game not against your rivals, not at Wembley, against someone that, whether they beat you or not, is inconsequential, so that you can get ready for the new season.
I think it's a little bit of a lose-lose for Ten Hag, because if United get absolutely battered, that's a terrible footing to start the season off. If United batter City, no one really is thinking that much about it. I mean, we've lost the last two Community Shields in a row. People will just think, oh, okay, well, that's just what happens. And then they're going to kick into gear next week.
I think if United win, that's also a bad thing for them. Because what they've currently got themselves stuck on is this roller coaster that when it goes up, the hype grows too much. People will start saying the signings are going to be good. We're going to be safe. We've just beaten the potential champions, Man City. You had Haaland fit, who scores against us all the time. They lose and people go, he actually just papered over the cracks. And so I completely agree with you that in a lot of ways, they just want to get to the first game, Fulham away, get through that safe and sound. Don't lose that game and just be okay. And they also come into this and you look at both their preseason form. I mean, I don't love preseason form as a guide to see how a team's going to do. But City, 4-2 against Chelsea, 2-2 against Barca, 3-2 against AC Milan. Celtic, for whatever reason, I've played every team in the world. Beat City 4-3. United lost 3-0 to Liverpool, 2-1 to Arsenal, 2-0 to they beat Rangers 2-0 and Real Betis 3-2. It's impossible to know which direction this game could go in. But I'm going to ask you the question. What do you think is going to happen in this one?
It's hard because as a City fan, I just don't care. And I know that's really bad because we're playing against Man United.
Spoiled by trophies, man. I don't care about winning the trophy.
I just don't know what to expect. I think if we're looking at the predicted lineups and they're correct, I think City will probably have a little bit too much for United side. So I expect like a 2-0 to City. 15
years ago, you'd have been buzzing for this game.
Yeah.
You'd have been absolutely buzzing.
Yeah,
15 years ago, he wasn't a City fan.
Right. That needs to be corrected immediately for YouTube because you know my story.
Harry, what do you think's going to happen?
I'm going to go for a City win. They've got better players. They're much better organised under Pep Guardiola. Everyone knows their roles. Both sides have got difference makers, but they've got more difference makers for me. So City win.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's an extension of pre-season. I think both managers are kind of like, I could do with another week of prep. But City have Haaland. He looks in good nick. Scored 6 goals, 3 assists in his last 6 appearances against United. I'll go City to win 3-1. I don't think it's going to be a great game though. I think we're going to be sat there going, oh man, like Saturday afternoon is what I'm doing. It's 26 degrees outside. Let me get some sun. Do let us know what you think is going to happen in the Community Shield final.